Money Arata. From time to time you may see some news of a bizarre work of art selling for a millionaire price. The price is of something absurd, such as a toilet pot broken in half or a banana peel nailed to the wall. Is this fraud? Is it really valuable art, or has the world gone crazy? Are these works of art worth anything at all? Well, there is no objective criterion that indicates the true value of works of art. Prices are high simply because a small group of galleries and collectors have decided that that's what these works are worth. When this group gets together to manipulate the market, the price goes up, regardless of whether other people agree or not. Have you ever experienced walking through a contemporary art museum, looking at those random squiggly lines on a painting? You might think to yourself, well, I could do it better than that. And indeed, many other amateur artists could do it too. But this manipulated art market has no interest in the aesthetics of what has been made. The interest is in the prestige of that art, the price that it will reach. And sometimes this prestige is engineered by an elite group with a specific purpose to evade taxes. So in this episode of the Money Arata series, you will learn how art can be used to evade taxes. Obviously, I'm not recommending you to do any of this, but at least you can understand how it's done. Take note, this is not financial service. Read the full disclaimer before proceeding. The fine art market has been used for centuries to evade taxes and benefit a small, increasingly wealthy elite. It is not something new for people to pay a lot of money for a piece of art that is common or strange or even considered to be ugly. The practice of buying overpriced art is very old, be it paintings or sculptures or other forms of art. The arts market is one of the most manipulated in the world. A restricted elite group with very wealthy people assigns random prices to completely subjective items. Thus, the elite manages to evade taxes and launder money. An example of manipulation is when the price of artwork depends on who the buyer is. If you are a famous collector or part of the elite group of manipulators, the price is one number. But if you're not part of the group, the price is different. You will be excluded even if you are a millionaire or a famous person like the actor who played Harry Potter in the theaters, Daniel Radcliffe. With a net worth of over $100 million, Radcliffe was unable to purchase a work of art simply because the gallery didn't want to sell it to someone who was not a famous collector or part of the club. Now, the reason is pretty simple. The purpose of tax evasion is undermined when the artwork is purchased by someone outside of the manipulation scheme. We'll explain now how this scheme works, but first we need to talk a little bit about taxes. Since taxes are mandatory, it's normal that some people look for alternatives to pay less. Some methods are legitimate, and some are not. The art market has a very sophisticated tax evasion scheme, and to have access to that scheme, it is not enough just to be rich. You need to have the right connections. This scheme is restricted to a small group that is capable of manipulating and maintaining the narrative about hand-picked artworks and artists. A narrative that makes everyone believe that a piece of work can be worth millions of dollars, of being high-quality art. But the real objective of this overvaluation is to make the members of this elite richer and richer. The steps that the ultra-rich use to manipulate the arts market are simpler than you might think. So, do you want to discover the step-by-step method that the elite uses to evade taxes through art? Let's pretend that you've joined the group of manipulators. First, you need to take possession of a work of art that you want to be worth a lot of money. The idea is to buy a piece of art cheaply, keeping it with you until the market value of that piece rises into the hundreds of millions. And for that, you need to manipulate the market with the help of other people: artists, art critics, journalists, auctioneers, and gallery owners. When you find an up-and-coming artist who's still unknown, you can buy some of these young artists' material artwork for a relatively low price. Now you have some artwork that costs little. The next step is to perform the magic of turning that art that you've purchased into something that is worth millions of dollars or valued like that. The magic is done with the help of all the members of this ultra-rich club. That is why the scheme needs to be restricted to the privileged few. And here we are imagining that you're already part of this group, of this club with other collectors and gallery owners and art critics and artists who are already famous. If all these people decide that the works you bought are worth millions of dollars, guess what will happen to the value of that? It will be worth millions of dollars. This scheme works because there is no objective value in the works of art. And the cost of the materials is irrelevant. What matters is the narrative, how much people involved in the art market, the respected ones, say that it is worth. Of course, those involved can't just randomly say that anything is worth millions of dollars to preserve their credibility in the arts market. This elite needs to create the narrative that there is indeed a great artist being discovered. And to create the narrative, the group publishes articles about that artist in a specialized press, they organize interviews, they make the artist participate in exhibitions at famous galleries, they make everything necessary to really make that artist famous. And with that, other people begin to buy the works of that artist, and the perceived value of the work increases as the reputation of that artist becomes more prestigious. Now, the elite that evaluates art has more arguments to convince the world that the works of that artist, once cheap, are now worth hundreds of millions. The final step in manipulating the art market is to evade taxes owed by pretending to donate to charity. Let's continue a simplified example, skipping the legal details that vary from country to country. Just keep one thing in mind. If you say that you know that one specific detail doesn't work in your country according to the legislation, well, the art traders know it as well, and they will execute the scheme in other jurisdictions where it is most beneficial for them. Let's remember what has been done so far. You cheaply bought works of an unknown artist, and along with your elite friends, you manipulated the market to make that artist famous. Now you possess works that are worth millions. But your ultra-rich friends are no fools. None of them is going to actually pay you millions of dollars to buy some random doodles back. So, since nobody really wants to buy that with cash, what do you do with those works of art? You donate. You give away your valuable works of art for free to foundations or museums or non-governmental organizations. These institutions are likely also run by other friends in your rich club. And as a thank you for the generous donation of that valuable work of art, the government gives you a huge tax rebate in return, a discount that can be equivalent to the value of that donated work. The important part to remember here is that the art donated in practice has very little value. What happened was a manipulation to make it look like it was worth millions. In other words, the donor cheated on taxes and he got even richer. Remember that art has no objective value, it is very subjective. So just hire the right appraisers who are part of the scheme and they will send the price of your artwork skyrocketing. Therefore, money is not enough. It is necessary to have the right connections. And this scheme works because everyone involved, they know pretty well what they're doing, from the artist to government officials. It is not enough to just have a lot of money. To manipulate the art market, you need to be part of a very small group. Not just any millionaire can participate in this scheme. Gallery owners even refuse to sell works of art to the people who are not part of the elite group. Remember the case of the Harry Potter actor? If you have a few million in your account, but you don't have a strong reputation for making the artwork go up in price, the gallery might refuse to sell to you. The gallery prefers to sell to collectors who are recognized in the art market because this will increase the perceived value of other works of that same artist. The money that circulates in the art market is so manipulated that many price offers are false. Can you recall watching movies where a piece of artwork is auctioned off and people raise their hands, offering higher and higher prices? That exists in the real world. However, there are cases where the first offers are completely fake. The auctioneer pretends to have seen an offer, or some of the group's cronies just make their offers just to start the negotiations. In some extreme cases, the sale is done as part of a money laundering scheme. Money laundering means taking money from illegal sources and legalizing the values. For example, buying a work of art with money from criminal activities that will later be resold, normally legalizing the money. There are also legitimate art collectors who want to buy art, but they don't want to pay the taxes. They don't buy art to be displayed in their mansions. They don't care about it. They don't care about the aesthetics of the work. This is just a tool to make more money. Do you know what they do? Instead of buying a piece of art and taking it home because they don't care, they just buy and leave it hidden in free ports. Free ports are tax-free areas that exist in various airports around the world. They say that in Switzerland, there is a free port that holds over $100 billion worth of works of art. In the art market, these free ports are basically the largest museums in the world that basically nobody has access to. And this is not new. The use of artwork to reduce taxes and launder money is very old. But there is a novelty that is starting to gain ground in recent years: the digital art market. It is not that you just don't understand anything about art. What you didn't understand was the scheme behind the art market. Most people who have seen a work of art sell for millions must have this strange feeling that they don't understand anything about art, that only a privileged few have the sensitivity to notice a noble, fine art. This feeling of exclusion is on purpose. It is part of the scheme that the art market uses to keep the club very closed and make the ultra-rich even richer. Exclusion is used both to separate the supposed elite and also to allow art prices to be manipulated by this small group. But it is not that you just don't understand art. You thought that art was ugly or weird because it was ugly and weird. What you didn't understand was the manipulation scheme behind that art. Now you might be angry to see how art is being used to evade taxes. To think that art sold for hundreds of millions is perhaps related to a scheme that some ultra-rich people are using to avoid paying taxes, and the money that has not been collected as taxes has to come from another source. You are the one who will be paying for that tax, and everybody else who's not part of the fraudster club. The worst thing is that many cases that are considered to be fraud, they are carried out with good legal guidance. This elite does everything in the right jurisdictions in countries where the law basically allows it, and with the evidence that guarantee that they're doing everything according to the law. The ultra-rich actually found an unknown artist. They promoted the art. And considering that art is subjective, it is very difficult to prove whether the appreciation of an artist was just some manipulation scheme or if the narrative actually worked because it was really a great artist. One way or another, less tax was paid by those who have a lot of money, and as a result, more tax has to be paid by you who have less money. It is not a fair situation where we, ordinary, honest citizens, are forced to pay our taxes while the ultra-rich are using strategies to evade taxes just because they have the right contacts and they're able to manipulate the market. What is worse is that this scheme is now expanding to digital art. You may have heard of NFT and digital artwork selling for millions of dollars. We're still going to be talking more specifically about NFT in the future, but guess what might be behind the overpriced sale of some silly cartoon JPEGs? The environment changes, but the logic is still the same. The art market has been used for centuries to evade taxes and launder money. This is a scheme that only the ultra-rich can do to get even richer, but it is not enough just to have money. To complete this kind of fraud, one needs to have the right contacts in the art market. Of course, there are legitimate artists, there are honest collectors, and there are really valuable works of art, but now we're focusing here on the people who are using legitimate means to achieve something illegal or at the very least immoral results, leaving the tax bill to us, people who have less money. Now, the good news is that you don't need cheats to multiply your money. You can get rich by making the right investments, and for that you need financial education. That's why now I invite you to our financial enrichment course, Truly Wealthy, by using the link arata.se/trulywealthy.